Welcome to another episode. Oh, I forgot to do the introduction. Welcome to the Ambiguous Show, a podcast for those who live in the in-between. I'm your host, Ashley Blake. Okay, now, this time, friends, welcome. Thanks for listening. Hello. Every time I try to record an intro, I'm always like, oh, I wonder how everyone's doing. I wish this was like a live situation where you guys could let me know. Thank you guys for listening. I'm always surprised every episode. You guys keep coming back, and that is really encouraging. And so a little update. I don't really have an update right now. I need to tear out the spring, not completely tear out, but I need to harvest. The spring vegetables are just not having this heat any longer. And so I definitely need to harvest those guys. They're looking pretty sad. It got really hot really quick. This year, I don't understand. The frost came so late, and then summer came immediately after. There was no in-between space. So, in case you were, looking for my garden update. Anyways, other than that, there's so many things in the works that I am so excited to tell you about, but they're not ready to share yet. Just know, there are so many good things coming. Sorry, I wasn't trying to yell. I just got really excited. Today is also an exciting thing. It's a real treat. I have a friend that's chatting with us today. My friend Yumi. I have been following her for a while now. I think I came across her work over a year ago. I bought some of her artwork for our house because I did the whole thing where I had no color in my house for a significant amount of time. Sometimes when you have a ton of chaos and then the one thing you control is color. So everything in my house was gray. Everything was gray. Every single thing was gray. And about a year ago, I started slowly reintroducing color, which is still an interesting process, still in progress on. But Yumi in color was one of the first art pieces that I purchased that were actually bright and, really lively. And so I've been a fan of hers for a while, and we've chatted across the times, but I was really excited to be able to get to introduce her, or you may know of her, but if you don't, I'm excited to introduce her to you. So I'm going to get out of the way, and you guys are going to get to hear a little bit about Yumi. Here she is.
My name is Rachel. I'm the artist behind Yumi in Color. Yumi is my Korean middle name, and I love color. If you can tell from my, it's very vibrant and colorful, and so that's hence the name. I wanted to put it together. I live in Virginia right now. I was born and raised here, and this is where I work. I work from home and create art through my shop online and also through my Instagram. I have been doing this consistently for about a year now. So it really started around when COVID was happening. So after I had to leave my job working, I used to work as an art teacher at this art studio, and I had to leave because of COVID things. And so I decided to take up art again and start to consistently pursue that again. And so that's sort of where Yumi in Color really began consistently. So, but I've been doing art things for like as long as I could remember. So like
Mm.
I was young, like I grew up taking like art lessons, and my mom is very like artistic as well. And so she would have me and my sister do like art lessons with her, and my godmother,
Mm.
professional artist. And so she like taught us how to like oil paint when we were like 10 or like 9. And it's just been a part of our lives for a long time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I really like that. And you said your mom was a big influence on your art.
Yes.
And one thing I really love in your artwork is just how it's very female centric. Like there's a lot of like friendship and like relationship driven work. Does that have anything to do with it or
uh, it probably does. Like I think I really started painting more portraits of like female and just friendship between women around last year. I wasn't painting portraits before actually, like, but I
Mm,
was doing art in school and just art, for myself. I would paint like kind of more abstract sort of pieces, and like really didn't touch like doing like people because I was like really scared like drawing people because I
mm.
that good at it, or like I don't know, I just had a lot of like comparison of just like, oh, I don't know if I could do it. But last year I really challenged myself to like paint more people, and specifically women. And I'd say like my mom's like, she's like one of my best friends and just is
Oh.
such a big influence on my life. And my my female friendships have just really impacted my life in such incredible ways. So I feel like that really inspired a lot of my work, just celebrating womanhood and friendship in my work. So
Mm. And I mean, I love so many different things about your work. But so your work, like anytime I see it come up, like it's very obvious that it's yours. Like I think you have a really strong voice when it comes to art. I don't know what the artistic way of saying this style. You have a
yeah.
very strong style. Have
Mhm.
you always been drawn to like really vibrant colors, or is that like something that has evolved over time?
Yeah, that's something that I've always been told growing up. Like, and I always thought it was kind of a bad thing actually as a kid, because
Really?
I was like, I really want to draw like my sister. She draws very like realistically and is like incredible
Mm.
in the way that she can see things and just make things look exactly what you see it. And for me, I really struggle with that because I always wanted to like make it look more like my own, or like I just like whenever I drew something, I was like, oh, that's definitely something I made. I would thing to line, or like it'd be very colorful. So
Yeah.
I actually I was looking around recently and was like kind of cleaning out some art stuff in my studio, and I found some of my older paintings when I was like really young. And
Mm.
wow, nothing's exactly changed because all the colors are just as bright and vibrant.
Oh, wow.
And something I've always been drawn to and have come to love more as I've just grown more in my art and everything. So yeah, that's something that I've seen myself like have consistently in my life, and I'm
Mm.
to more of a place of like, okay, like that's a good thing. Like it's good that it looks like me, and it's like I don't
Yeah.
make it look like someone else, or and so yeah, that's something I've come to accept more.
I feel like that's such a gift. Like I love oh, man, I love the idea that's like such a hard thing for me because I'm generally like a chameleon of a human. And so it's really hard for me to like have something that sounds like or looks like my own. Um just because I've blended into so many things so frequently in life. So, one thing that I was wondering, and it may not be the case, so you can just say, but when I look at your work, a lot of the pieces to me like seem like really like purposeful statements. And
Mm.
I don't know if they are intended to be like if you think through something and you're like, I want to address this, or I like have this motivation that I want to put into art form, or if you just like free flow artistically and you just happen to have a like your art has a lot to say.
Yeah, I would say it's like a combination. So when I'm sitting down to sketch something or I'm wanting to create something, I always want it to be quite purposeful, for at least
Mhm.
like for myself at first. Like, what am I creating for me today? And that's kind of like how I approach it. And so a lot of things that I make, like I want to be intentional with what I'm making. And like you're saying, it's sort of like a statement for,
Mm,
I think it's like more just even like for myself, it's like a statement of like my process. And I think for me, art and painting has been very therapeutic for me to just process things in the eyes of hope, in the eyes of just coming up for
mm,
air too. So it's like I'm making, statements of like, okay, like I can find the joy today, or, just like the colors I use and everything. So I would say like, yeah, it's very intentional, or I try to be as intentional as I can, but sometimes it can be like, some days like I just want to paint flowers because I just want to paint flowers, or, you know,
yeah.
like it can, but I think for me, I just naturally, I'm like, I want it to be something that's uplifting and very purposeful.
Mm. Yeah, remember one of your pieces that stands out to me is the Life in the Valley piece. And it was so interesting to me because a those who don't know, I've written a lot of
Mm,
poetry in my life. A lot of the themes have been valleys and darkness. There's a collection called Midnight Harvest. So I love these themes of dark. And when I looked at this piece, it was interesting to me because I've never seen imagery of a valley that looked so hopeful
mm,
or that looked like so much joy, so much at work within it. That the ability to see abundance
mm,
is something that really draws me to your work. It also challenges me to
mm.
see things differently, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just how I got it.
Well, thank you for sharing with me, because that, yeah, I'm like, wow, like that's really what I was wanting to communicate. Like specifically with that,
Mm,
that piece is probably the most intimate and personal piece I've shared in the most
mm,
recent, like in the past month, just because that one was painted during a time where I was feeling quite in the valley, like in the thick of it.
mm,
I would say this past year has been one of the hardest years of my life, just for just some personal family things that have been happening and just unexpected things. And so during that time was sort of the height of it, where I was like,
yeah.
am I gonna drown? Am I just gonna like, be overcome with all these, with the grief of what's happening in my life right now? And I was like, you know what, I think I need to paint right now and just, process what's happening. And what,
Yeah.
as I was painting, I was also like praying and just, processing like, okay, like this is where I'm at right now. And it's really hard to see any hope in this because a valley seems very isolating and lonely.
Yeah.
That was kind of the overarching feeling I was feeling, like though I have support, like physically and emotionally, there is something internally where you're like, I'm going through this, like through, like it's me, like I'm going through this, and so kind
Yeah.
of, and as I was like painting that piece, I felt like I was hearing the Lord just even saying to me in that moment that the valley is actually not alone, but that it's surrounded. And because
Mm,
actually when I was looking at pictures of valleys, it's like you have these huge hills that are like kind of covering it, like kind of tucking it in, and then there's like that,
mm,
the dip below, and then within the valley there's always like wildflowers and rivers and all these things. I'm like, oh, like there's so much more life here than I thought there would be, and it's
yeah.
not as lonely as I thought it would be. And so that piece was a very like intentional piece where like, okay, I really need to paint this for myself and hope in the midst of just going through a heavy time in my life right now. So that
Mm,
was a piece that meant a lot.
that's really beautiful. Thank you. Um, Another thing that I really cherish in your work, or, I think one of the first pieces that I found of yours. So, my family, I've tried to be intentional about what they see and what they experience to not be as um, monochrome as the area that we live in.
Mm,
And also, I think that it's really interesting, like artistic wise, because everyone in my family is artistic, that there's like visual representation of the things that we want, like for our lives. And and so it was really interesting to me. Work has a lot of multicultural representation, and even though like I have 3 kids, they all have the same parents, but they all have different skin tones and different hair textures. and and you know, we have a lot of different heritage pouring into them, and so it was important for me that they saw all of those things together. This is like having like one picture isolated and one picture isolated with something else. um so it was important to me that your work captures like that we can live together, like it's a normal thing for us to live together and be among different people, because that's not actually portrayed that commonly in art.
Mm.
What led you to incorporate that into your work?
I Yeah, I feel like that is something that I feel really passionate about, just being very inclusive and in diversifying my work and having, I think specifically with women that I enjoy painting, and those have come from just my own life, like my own friendships and the the amount of like the beauty of like the diversity of my friendships that I've been able
Mm.
to in the past couple years. And it's like literally me hyping up my friends and be like, oh my gosh, like they're amazing. And you know, and we all look so different. And it's beautiful that we all like have this bond together, and that like that's how the world should look like. Like we should be bonded together. And even though we if we like have different cultural backgrounds or look different, whatever, like that, like it's beautiful to bring it all together and to be in. And
Mm.
so that's something that I enjoy putting in my work, is like the sense of harmony between just different people and bringing it all together. And so that's it's very it came from a very personal place. It was around like
Mm.
2019. I went to this really special school down in North Carolina, and I made some really wonderful friends there, and just friends from all over the world and just from different backgrounds. And I just realized just how beautiful that was. Like I think that was the most like diverse, like most diverse like friend group I was able to receive in my life in that time, because I grew up in a pretty monochromatic area too. Like I kind of like the only Korean girl in my class, or you know, just
Oh yeah.
very different, and had to grapple with that a lot. I'm like, oh, like this is like I wish I could have like more, you know, just diversity in my friendships. And so
Mm.
yeah, just like in 2019 I was able to just like make really deep and long lasting friendships there. And from that I was like, I just really want to paint that experience and paint how I feel about my friends and these women who have like impacted my life, and you know, women that have come from very different upbringings and backgrounds from me. And so that has definitely like influenced my work in that way.
Mm. I love that so much. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
We're taking just a super quick break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back. This podcast was created with Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to get started in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Your relationship with like nature and land,
Mm-hmm.
it's visually like in your work constantly. So did you like grow up outdoors a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I feel most myself and most at rest when I'm out in like an open field or just in when I'm just surrounded by like woods and nature. And so I
Mm.
live in an area where it's like pretty suburban, but like my house and where it's located, we have a lot of woods and a really large backyard. And I remember growing up, just like my parents and my grandparents, like working the land and growing
Mm.
a garden and planting things. So I don't know if you've seen the movie Minari.
Mm. Oh, no, I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good. But so Minari is like a plant and it's a pretty common
Hmm.
plant in like Korea, but my grandpa actually planted like Minari like plants all over my house. We have a ton of greenery. So
Mm.
just growing up like having that around me was very, it definitely like inspired me a lot. And I feel like even more so recently, I find that for some reason, landscapes and green spaces just bring a lot of rest to me. Like I feel like I'm kind of walking
Mm.
back into like a Eden site type of like a atmosphere or environment of just like complete like rest and peace in nature and just like
Yeah.
I'll feel like I think there's like a smallness and a humbling I feel like being in like an open field or just like being out in nature because it's like, oh, I'm not like my problems are like not gonna overtake me in this way, right? Like it's like this I'm like a smaller part of this bigger world and like this world is so huge and there's so much of it and there's so much beauty to see and like things keep growing even in the midst of like hard things. And so I feel like recently just have felt a lot of inspiration from being out in nature and
Mm.
yeah, finding joy in that. And so yeah, I love being outside and looking around.
Yeah, I think that I've been avidly gardening this year more so than other years. And I've been attempting and failing gardening for the last 5 to 7 years. Um, but I was really adamant about getting out there this year because it just seemed like a place where even though the garden needs a lot of attention, it's like not pressure. So a lot of my other hobbies in life are all somehow artistic. And artistry, there's just a lot of pressure that can occur from a lot of different angles for different reasons. Um, and so the garden space, like being out in nature, has been really life giving. Even though I've not always been into being outdoors and bugs scare me, but I think that reconnecting to land is a theme that's been happening this year. For me, that's been really
Mm.
beneficial to my stress levels. Do you ever feel pressure with like having to produce work, or is it just like an overflow of
Yeah.
your being? I don't know. People are
Yeah,
different.
yeah, no, that's it's a great question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like I would say that it comes from an overflow. Like I don't particularly feel burnt out by the things I'm creating right now, and I feel a
Mm.
lot of just joy from what I'm making, but I also do feel like that pressure of like I have to keep like showing up and I have to keep like sharing things. And I think especially in like a social media type of world, like I don't
Yeah.
I've read this somewhere, but basically like social media was just not made for artists to thrive because it's literally like every day you need to post something new, which is better for like lifestyle photography or just like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're taking pictures every day, which you can do easily, but it's like I don't know, with art, it's like I feel those things take time for people to
Mm.
consume, but also to make. And so
Right.
definitely feel that pressure and kind of like this love-hate relationship with social media of just like I feel like certain pieces just really need longer time,
Yes.
to be loved and like to maybe be reposted like 10 times because it's like exposure of just like being seen, right? But
Yes.
media works, it's like new thing every day, every day. And so I definitely feel that pressure of just like what what it looks like to be online and to do things online as an artist. So that definitely can be frustrating.
Yeah. I do have to say that I really like your YouTube videos because they're so calming to me. I live such a chaotic life. And yeah, I really enjoy watching. That's something that I want to like reintroduce into my life, like the slowness of art making, where I think that I had a lot of influence from like the social media mindset of like constantly making something. And I don't have a problem with perfectionism, so I'm fine like releasing something into the world that's like not ready. But then like looking back, you'll see like, oh, like if I had like sat with this a little longer, or if I like thought this out a little more, or if I had given this the space to breathe, I wonder what that could have looked like, or like if that could have had a greater impact. You know what I mean? Or like had more meaning rather than just being like something that I made for the sake of making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't got anywhere with that, but it's something that I'm thinking
It's a
about.
good place to start. It's a good place to start to think about those things.
I always feel that I don't claim the answers to anything, but I have a lot of questions to consider. Lots of things to consider.
Yeah.
So, your Patreon.
Yeah. Have a Patreon. I started about, when did I start? In December, around December, I created a Patreon. I was very nervous about it because I was like, never done this before. And, you know, a lot of the people that have had Patreon, I was like, these are artists I've been working for years and, you know, new, but I have been overwhelmingly surprised by the amount of just support I've been receiving on there, like consistent support. And I'm every time I look at it, I'm just like, wow, I'm so grateful that support me and everything, because it truly means a lot. And I feel like it's such a special place of just, I think it's like a more intimate space too, where I can just
Yeah.
a little bit more like personal things and whatnot. And there's a little bit more freedom there. And so, yeah, I really enjoy Patreon and yeah, really love the support I've been getting.
And where can people find you?
So you can find me on my Instagram at Yumi in Color. And I also have a YouTube channel that I need to update some videos. Vlog right now. My sister and I just filmed like a monolid makeup tutorial in celebration of Pride Month. So
Yeah.
I'll be posting that soon on my YouTube, and that's just Yumi in Color as well. And then I also have a TikTok. That's a new thing.
Ooh.
It's a Yumi in Color, all the same name. But that's been really fun to be on there and yeah, to have like a different platform of sharing.
I will have to check out the TikTok. I love TikTok, but I can only go on like once a week because it takes over.
It's like,
I'm like, where did the last 3 hours go? I don't know.
I'm like, I'm just gonna post this one thing, and then I'm on there for like an hour. I'm like, no, I need to be working. I need to work. No, it's definitely
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Rachel. You're incredible. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks again. I'm always so appreciative of your support. I hope that you check out Yumi in Color. Find her on Instagram. Look at some of her posts. Buy some of her work. I hope that it inspires you. I hope that it brings joy to your life. Sending you all of the hugs and goodness, guys. All of the good things your way. Okay. Well, you know, if you have any questions, stories, shout outs, hellos, feel free. Please send us a voice message on our Anchor page. You can also email at us at hello@moita.co. Support the podcast and our mission through our Anchor page. You can give just as little as $1 a month, or like, you know, knock it up to like a venti coffee if you like. You can find our support page at anchor.fm/The Ambiguous Show. You can also help our podcast by subscribing, leave us a 5-star review, and, you know, share with a friend. If you have a friend that you think would really love Yumi's work, or, you know, like another episode that we have, send it their way. Connect with us on Instagram at The Ambiguous Show. This podcast is produced by Moita, where creativity gathers and worlds collide. Music brought to you by Lay. Thank you, friends. And remember, you are exactly who you need to be. Go be great.